The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday in the Riv, like the beginning of another week. And
After an Arctic blast.
Arctic, I hope everybody survived well and
Yep.
nobody's pipes froze. But,
My pipes didn't bust. The school's pipes didn't bust over here. But City Hall's, government centers busted.
Well,
And from
that's
what
because the heating bill that wasn't paid, right?
I guess, I don't know.
I'm only-
But it flooded the basement of Government Center.
where
and
they keep the records and shit.
where they keep records and the elections equipment and all of that. And the water was pouring out onto I-90, 195.
Which is not a good thing either.
Which is not a good thing because that means there's a hole somewhere.
And not only that, it could cause an accident.
Right.
It hits vehicles.
Because it was cold and it could be ice.
And it could loosen something.
Right.
Because we did have something fall.
That's right.
From that under.
Yeah.
Over the, I always, from the get-go, I was opposed to building that thing over a highway.
Yeah.
Especially when we're building it in Fall River. Who the hell knows? Because that's what happens when they build these things. I mean, look what happened with the Big Dig. Somebody was killed with a piece of the ceiling in one of the tunnels that they built, because we know that workmanship and oversight is very lax in public projects. The only thing that isn't lax is the payoffs and the money they make on them. But otherwise, the other stuff is, just throw in inferior concrete or just put Band-Aids on that thing.
Well, I sent an email to the Elections Commissioner, Ryan Lyons, asking him if, during the flood, did any of the elections equipment get damaged? And his response was, nothing happened at Elections Central. So I have to take that nothing happened to the equipment.
What the hell? Again, we've got all these euphemisms. What the hell is Election Central? We're talking about the damn, you asked a very specific question, and you got kind of a very vague and obtuse answer. I mean, nothing happened at Election Central. That's like saying the entire basement could have been flooded, but Election Central, it's on the wherever it is, because, last time I walked up there, and I was there last week when I dropped off my census, it said Elections Board. Didn't say
no, the Election Central is in the basement. It's in the basement. If you come down in the elevator, you take a right. I think it's a right off the elevator.
Does it have a sign saying Election Central?
It's actually where you go during elections to get the results.
But it says Election Central.
I think so.
Wow, that is so.
That's where all the elections equipment is stored.
That is so ostentatious. Yeah. Wow. Election Central. You would assume that Election Central would be on the 40th floor of a high-rise, with all the massive computer networks and stuff
but
like
the reason
that. You got 3 gerbils on a track.
The reason I sent the email to elections was because I received several messages from people who were concerned because that's new equipment. Yeah. And we paid a lot of money for it.
True.
Okay, and they were concerned that did something happen to this equipment? Are we going to have to replace it? Is it going to have to be repaired? What's going on? But according to them, nothing happened to it, so.
Well, justified. Those questions were justifiable,
yes, they
obviously, and to be concerned. And because we have had problems with documents down there being.
Well, that's another question. I didn't send an email to the city clerk, but I'm sure the city clerk is down there checking things out. Now, the stuff that's in the safe, I'm sure is pretty safe without a problem. That's why it's called a safe. But I know that the other records are stored down there, and are any of them damaged?
Yeah, it's always a problem. It's problematic, and it's look, when you have weather like that, if there's any kind of hole or gap, that cold will ultimately find it. I went
That's
through
right.
enough broken pipes and mills and stuff like that where, and it causes huge damage. I mean, huge damage. You break a pipe in a mill, it'll flood the entire basement up into the
Right.
first floor, come pouring up, and I've seen it. It's it's kind of like how did this happen? There's obviously a gap, and I hope that they're just not saying, okay, we're going to fix the pipe. Let's find out what created that circumstance that allowed that pipe to break. And
Besides being cold.
well, yeah, it's cold, but you've
Right.
got to make sure when you have pipes that they're insulated and they're not exposed to the cold. I mean, it's going to get cold in a space, but you've got to make sure that these spaces are, sheltered enough, because it's normally when it gets super, super cold or there's a wind, a little, and it was windy.
It was
Wind's
windy.
blowing on the pipes, and so you're driving that cold in, and pipes can freeze. I don't know what kind of pipe it was, and because there are different types of pipes,
Right.
obviously. Was it a sprinkler pipe, and what is it? But the reality is that you have to ensure that it's as tight as possible, and it's not. It's a fairly big building. It's not the greatest building in the world I don't think, and you have to be sure. But I just hope, against hope, because I know how the government works. Fix the pipe, don't worry about it.
Right.
And we fix the pipe, everything's all set. It's like when we used to go to the mills. There was invariably those things were in a at a stairwell, sprinkler pipe or something like that in a stairwell, and there was no heat in that general space, and there was a window close to it, and there was an opening somewhere, and so the pipe goes. Or it's somewhere where somebody left a window cracked or something like that. But you've got to try to do everything you can, like you do in your house. You can put in the basement, like in my basement, I've got the insulated cover you can buy to cover the pipes.
Yep.
As much as you can, and you can't cover everything because it goes into the wall and
Right.
goes up. But you got to try to do it, because especially like in City Hall, if it gets into the basement, which invariably goes down because of gravity, there's a lot of important things that are kept in the basement.
Not only that, I mean, as you said, they must have an opening or something somewhere to let in the air. Obviously, there's an opening because the water was pouring out onto I-195. So even if that was the opening, there was an opening.
Yeah.
But there's nobody to blame at Government Center about this. I mean, this was an act of God. This is an act of nature.
Yeah, but it's for once, okay, you can take your worry hat off.
Yeah.
Well, we're not blaming it, you. It's just a fact, because it happens. That building is not brand new either.
No, it's not.
And but the key is that when you have a problem, you try to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Exactly.
And you've got to try to identify where and how it got that space, and do what you can to even give it further protection by maybe wrapping some pipes, or putting a barrier up of some kind, insulating barrier somewhere, and try to do it. It's just fortunately that we didn't get anything that was really important. Hopefully is destroyed, as you said.
Right.
So far we've said the elections are okay, but we've got to see if any documents or anything like that. I'm sure we'll hear. But then again, maybe we won't, because this is not exactly an administration that shares all kinds of information with people.
Right.
It's
Right.
just the opposite. So.
Right.
But it is what it is. So everybody survived except the government center, I guess, that we know of.
Well, no, there was a couple of fires over this storm. One on Highland Avenue, I believe. And you, amongst anyone else, would know that fighting a fire in the temperatures we had this weekend would not be easy.
It's one of the, and ironically, people don't realize that the two extremes, extreme cold and extreme heat, extreme heat, it's bad because firefighter exhaustion, heat stroke, you can't work these crews for hours at a fire. You got to kind of give them a rest. You got to hydrate them. You got to rotate them in and out. So that impedes the operation, but you know, which is bad. That's a bad circumstance. I've had those. You know, I had one on 4th of July actually one time. It was a really tough one, and it was hot as hell on that 4th. But the other extreme, when it's extremely cold, is even worse because now you not only got the fact that these people are going to be cold, and then they're going to go in and get hot and come out and get cold, but everything ices up. You know, the hose lines are difficult to drag because everything gets encrusted. Ladders are encrusted in ice, and it's just a difficult. You got to worry about firefighters being injured trying to walk on the ice. We got to get people down from DPW to try to make it but it's really a difficult situation, and of course, this weekend we had some high winds too.
Yes.
Winds are always a problem, and it's a difficult scenario. And we always have a lot of fires when it gets cold because you have people using space heaters to supplement. Even people who don't have space heat, you still have a lot of space heaters in Fall River, in apartments. And you put anything on a space heater, anything near a space heater, and it's blasting, 24 hours a day, it can start a fire. But now we have people who even have not space heaters per se, but they then supplement their regular heat because they bring in an electric heater and they plug it in. But if anything's near that electric heater,
right.
So there's always a situation when it gets cold. Historically, in the fire service, extreme cold weather, we have a lot of fires. So.
Yep. And the worst thing that happens, I think, in the very cold days and the cold months, people use those kerosene heaters in their house.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Yeah. Oh.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
Carbon monoxide is silent killer. There's no smell. There's no. It just one day you're wide awake and then you're gone.
Oh, yep. With cherry lips.
Yep.
But hey, it is what it is. But let's get into a little bit of our thing. First of all, I don't know if you got this text. I did, because apparently Colin Dyers of Fall River has organized a committee for the office of Fall River City Councilor. So Colin, who we all know, and is going to run for city council. I think that's good. I hope he's joined by a lot of other people, because I hope he comes up with a good platform. I think he will. He's held the school committee's feet to the fire about giving his opinion. He has an opinion, and so people will use that as a negative. He's opinionated, but most of the time, his opinion is about what's right, what's legal, and about the people of Fall River. And in my opinion, and I am very well known to be opinionated.
No, not you.
But we've got too many bobbleheads now. This is like bobblehead central now. Nobody's worried about the important things. Nobody's worried about affordable housing. Nobody's worried about escalating taxes, about unfettered pay raises, while we're looking at Diamond coming on board, I wish Colin the best. I think he's an engaged person, and that's what we need on our council and in our mayor's office. We need somebody who is engaged with the people of Fall River, who is listening not just to the special interests, but to all the people of Fall River and their plight, who knows that there are people getting on there saying, I can't afford my rent, I can't afford to eat, I can't, inflation is killing me, because for the most part, the bobbleheads we have now, all they worry about is the Davol stormwater corridor, or whatever euphemism they've attached to that fiasco.
Yeah, that was under Jake Auchinclaw's letter.
Which
I have here.
Another elitist from the elitist from up around the Boston area, the rich kid, who comes down and isn't it amazing that the stormwater, what's the name of it, CJ? Give
They're
us
now
the
calling
acronym.
it the Fall River Waterfront Stormwater Corridor.
Wow, now it's the stormwater corridor.
Right.
No, I got to add that. We got to write Auchincloss's office and say it's got to be called the Davol Corridor Stormwater and Special Benches and Lighting Corridor. Because remember, we're going to spend $7 million to put special lighting. Why isn't Congressman Auchincloss saying, I want to provide federal money to relieve the entire stormwater project for all the people in Fall River, not just all the richy riches who are down there and own the property down on the Davol Corridor, because we all know who they put aside all your street paving to make sure that they moved the Davol paving up ahead. So certain people who own property down there will have better access. Also, they've thrown in $7 million of our money on a
For
project
lights.
for special lighting and benches. So this is the thing that irritates me. And this is why, segue back to Colin. Colin's somebody who sees this too. But our bobblehead council will go, oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Jake. Give the rich people more money. Thank you very much. You guys are so great. I love you. We love you all because you're just like us. We only care about the richies.
Yep.
And so we're going to call it that's actually, when I look at that, that's really a crap name.
Yep.
I was going to say the S word, but I almost slipped. And that is a
Fall River
crappy
Waterfront Stormwater Corridor, yeah.
stormwater.
Yep.
I mean, who would want to go to a stormwater corridor? They'd be afraid they were going to be washed away by a giant tidal wave of stormwater.
Well, you got to hear this. The funding would be used to update a stormwater conveyance system. This system includes large box culverts and specially designed and configured manholes that will allow a large amount of stormwater to pass through this newly constructed transportation corridor. The city's wastewater collection and treatment system is primarily a combined system with more than 200 miles of sewers that transport both sanitary and stormwater flows to the Fall River Wastewater Treatment Facility, WWTF, and one of the 17 CSOs that discharge to the Taunton River or Mount Hope Bay. Sewerage and development over time has resulted in capacity and conditions issues that must be addressed as part of the infrastructure renewal projects. I certify that I neither nor my immediate family have any financial interest in this project. Jake Auchincloss, Member of Congress.
Isn't that... Thank you, Jake, for confirming beyond a shadow of a doubt. You don't give two craps about the regular people in Fall River. We had to foot the bill for the CSO project, which is going to just take our stormwater away in a normal CSO manner. We are going to have high-tech, special, just like the benches. This is really good, CJ. We're going to have special benches, special lights, and now we have a special stormwater system just for all the richy riches who own the property down there. Let me see. We built a park. We built a park down there instead of saying, we want to bring in business. This is the new gem of the city. Why wouldn't we open that for business properties, right? To try to get people who get off the tee, because then, they're going to come down by the thousands.
That's it.
By the millions.
Yep.
It's going to be like
And
William
all coming
Wallace.
through the Derby horses.
It's going to be like William Wallace when all the clans were coming by the millions, by the thousands, by the hundreds to go fight. But the reality is, why didn't we make this open to bring in all those businesses that, by the way, they said that the T is bringing? All these businesses, why not put them right there with the special benches and the special lights and the special storm water stuff? No, I think being a little bit of a conspiracy theorist,
Just a little.
just a little, I'm thinking that they made that space a park so businesses could not be built there and infringe on the business owners who are down there now, all of whom fit very well with the powers to be.
They're in the club.
They're in the club, the cabal. Yeah, because we know that that floating whatever that thing is, their bar room, and we know who owns that. A guy who used to be a city councilor came on and used that council seat to just promote his own agenda. He wasn't there very long.
He was even city council president.
That's right. And so he's still down there. And then we know the developer who owns the other end, and there's some people, and a lot of other people who are very well known are all involved in that cabal, and they're the only people who are getting there. That's a closed club. You've got to come in and go through Mr. Fiola to even be considered. And now they got the 3A where they have absolute control over this thing. And it isn't amazing that they're dumping federal money into that space that's already funded by the state, but they're dumping, now they're going to get federal money to go into the state money, over the top of the state money, over the top of our money that's going to give special benches to make that place such a very special place. As a matter of fact, I think they might even ultimately have security around that perimeter to check your income, to allow you to actually walk in that place, because you should not even be allowed to enter that if you don't have at least double the median income of Fall River.
Well, while we're talking on that waterfront, I don't know if you remember, we spoke about $1.5 million for capital improvement that was being brought down to the Battleship Cove area. Well, somebody sent this just now. $1.5 million will be used by the city of Fall River for capital improvements to the Battleship Cove Waterfront District. Another new name. The city plans to relocate 2 existing salt sheds located on state property, combine that property with city-owned property to create an additional 200 off-street parking spaces and a pedestrian access corridor to abutting public and private attractions, and provide cathodic protection to a recently remediated waterfront pier facility that will be open for passive recreation and transient dockage boating purposes.
Yeah.
Under guidelines issued by the Senate and House Appropriation Committee, members of Congress requested CDS funding for projects in their state for fiscal year 2022. CDS requests were restricted to a limited number of federal funded streams, and only state and local governments and eligible nonprofit entities were permitted to receive CDS funding.
Let's keep dumping the money down there, because all our pals they got the property down there. We're going to make, and you know those parking lots, they're going to move that so we can get all these hundreds of people that are going to come down there, which is crap. It's going to be an empty parking lot for a long time, because you know this is baloney.
Well, honestly,
but the reality is the cathodes. Who's going to go recover those when they break off? Because I know one thing, I dove on the Big Mamie with the dive team and the Fall River Fire Department to recover all the cathodes that were around the Big Mamie to retard corrosion.
Yep.
And they'd all broken off because nobody ever maintained them, and they fell down into that and believe me, it is dirty water. You can't see your hand in front of you. It's like the black hole of Calcutta, and there's 10 feet of silt down there. We dove because the city said, oh, will you guys do it? Because it's going to cost like $50,000 to hire commercial divers.
And then you found out why.
But you know, we knew it was a mess. But we went down there and we recovered basically all of them, and now who knows? Like I said, lack of maintenance again. They got all these mitigation, things. They're going to make this into, as I said, the crown jewel. But all that is, it's a crown jewel in the middle of a place that we haven't done anything to improve our crime rate. We've allowed our police department to get down to 145 patrolmen, the lowest it's been in like forever. And so they think, what, people are going to come down here to do, listen, they've got all these big plans, and I will remind one of the people who's involved in this, My only argument to that is they've tried this before, Point Gloria.
Yep. Yep.
And we all know how that turned out.
And one of the big complaints that people have about the Narrows, because the Narrows puts on a lot of events now, concerts and different types of events, is that there's no parking. So is this 200 parking spaces being created for somebody special, namely Tom Norton's son? Because he's the one who owns the Narrows?
Yeah.
Is this a special project again? Or is it a general project?
No, I think that's a valid question.
Or is this for the new train station that's going to open at Battleship Cove? Again, another thing.
Of course. Listen, they're gonna dump millions of our tax dollars down there to make it better for millionaires, people who are millionaires, and developers who are millionaires, while they're not going to build affordable housing for the people that can't make rent, and that is offensive. That is offensive. For the mayor to get out and say, well, we got 3 units at this place, and we got 4 units at that place, and they're building how many units in Somerset? 40?
100 and something.
And they're going to put like 40-some units or something. And Somerset's like a pea compared to Fall River in size. You know, I mean, talk about convoluted priorities. This clearly shows how anti-Fall Riverite they are. They don't care. I'm waiting for Bloomberg to come down. And remember what Bloomberg, that billionaire who lasted like 35 milliseconds when he ran for president, because people saw what a condescending, pompous, obsequious, sycophant he really is. As I pulled out some of my sesquipedalians there. So
I noticed that.
Get the dictionaries out. That's it. But when I still remember that vividly when he said, after he got bounced out for president, and he didn't have to pretend to like regular people anymore. He went, oh, you can't afford an electric car? Take a bus.
That's it.
You can't afford to eat meat? Eat beans. And if you can't afford to take care of your dog, kill it or get rid of it. I don't care. Just like that guy said 150 years ago in my book, this Labor's Untold Story, when that mill owner said, I don't care one iota about the people who work in my factories. I use them like I use the machines. I use them till they break down, and then I cast them out into the street. So this is the attitude that these people have. They are dumping millions of dollars into this little strip of land while they're allowing people not to be able to afford food, pay their rent. And if you don't get offended by that and come out by the droves in November, you are
the problem.
Responsible.
And
you are responsible for this situation not being corrected. And people that are running for council that are new and care about you, and people who are running for mayor who care about you, that's where you should be going, voting.
That's it. Real quickly, this is a rumor. Allegedly, they want to move the battleship, remember, down to Weaver's Cove. So what's going on down there? And you just brought it up. They're taking care of the richy riches. So it's just interesting to see how this is happening. I don't think they're going to move the battleship. But, hey, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, it's another week. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Wednesday. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.